All right, so let's begin. Now, as you can see here, this is our source code in MySQL that we have written for our blood bank database. This was the content when we were actually writing the code. So you can go through this once. We have just created the database using simple SQL language. Then we have created tables. Then we have some inserted some values into the tables. Then we have mentioned some consistency constraints on the tables. So this is the source code when we were actually writing the source code versus compared to this. Now see, this is a source code that MySQL Workbench created for us after we exported our data or rather information to a MySQL database dump file. It contains all the SQL statements that create and populate tables in a database called Blood Bank. So you can see here these are all the SQL statements that got generated by the SQL Workbench. It includes some timestamps, some foreign key checks, as you can see here, then local connection, local host, server version, dump files, etc. etc. Now, this is the table for BB manager. It is a relation in our database. You can see all the relations in this left side of the panel. This is the schemas or the logical or conceptual schema. Uh, this is the database. These are all the databases. Let me refresh it once again. Yes. So these are all the databases that are present inside a MySQL uh, workbench. This is the workbench. This is the database. Sorry, which on which we are working on. This is the database on which we are working. Now, inside each database uh, are some relations or tables. Like you can see here, this is the BB manager table. This is the blood donor table. This is the blood specimen. Oh, wait, let me show it to you. Like here. So, this is the BB manager table. As you can see here, there are some entries in it like Vatsalya, Vicky, Light, Erin, Mikasa. Then moving forward to blood donor, these are the blood donors: Steven, Tony, Bruce, Natasha, Hermione. Wait, let me expand it. Yes, there are more. Yes, then Harry, Sherlock, Logan, Peter, Odinson. These are the ages of the donors, then sex, then blood group, etc., etc. City ID, recognition ID. Then here is the blood specimen relation. Let me expand it. I think that's one more. No, this is it. So this is the specimen numbers, then blood groups, then status, whether it is present or not, then disease find ID, MID, etc., etc. Now these are some cities: Asgard, Paradis, Marley, Wakanda, Valhalla, Madripoor, Hogwarts, Sokovia, Kamartaj, and Gotham. Then these are the disease finder values: Indiana, Stephen, Christine, Gwyn, Victor, Skywalker, Julius, Kratos, Brutus, Murdoch. Then the hospital info one, which contains value like Springfield, Hampshire, Winterfell, Riverrun, Hawksmeade, Green Oaks, Forest Park, Parkland, Pin Creek, and Alphaville. So then moving on to hospital info number two, it contains these values. Like these are the hospital names: Springfield, Hampshire, then Winterfell, Riverrun. All right. These are the hospital names. Then recipient names. These are the recipient names: Indiana, Bruce, Goku, Stephen, Itachi, Irvin, Natasha, Julius, Hemsworth, Langford, ages, then their blood groups, then either IDs, city IDs, then their genders, registration date. Then these are the recording staff who recorded the, or should I say, So these are the recording staff members: Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, Mitsuri, Nezuko, Muzan, Akaza, Tengen, Rengoku, and Kokushibo. Then, so alright, that was it. These were all the relations. And on the bottom side of the panel, you can see that it is telling me whether my code or current query got executed or not successfully. Like green tick is for successful and red is for unsuccessful. So no, as one unsuccessful code. I might have done it in the past. So yeah, more here, nothing much. So let me close it one by one. All right, so now let's break down our source code step by step. So the file begins with some comments indicating the MySQL version and the database it is targeting. You can see all the code here. Next, there are several configuration settings and mode changes that are being set. These settings affect the behavior of the SQL statements that follow. Next up, the code then defines the structure of multiple databases tables such as BB Manager, Blood Donor, Blood Specimen, City, Disease Finder, Hospital Info 1, Hospital Info 2, then Recipient, and then Recording Staff. You can see these are all the tables in our database, and each table has its own set of columns, data types, and constraints, which I showed you earlier. Now, after defining the table structure, the code inserts data into the tables using the insert into statements. Let me show you where it is. Yeah, this this is the insert into statements. We are inserting values into our table. So each insert into statement specifies the table name and provides values for the corresponding columns. Then the code also includes some views and temporary views. As you can see here, these are some views. Let me open it. These are some views and temporary views, which are virtual tables defined based on the data from existing tables. All right. Next, uh, we have finally there are some foreign key constraints defined between tables to establish relationships and maintain referential integrity. Like you can see, uh, wait, let me show you. Like these are all consistency constraints. The value should be not null. Default value is null. Then the city ID cannot be null. Like let me show you some constraint. Yeah, there it is. Constraint foreign key recognizing ID. Then constraint foreign key city ID. It takes reference from this city ID, and then recognition ID from recording staff and from city table. It acts as a foreign key. So we have, and you can see here that our connection is established. Make sure your connection is established between the server and database before you start executing the MySQL queries on your workbench. You can see it is running server status, load is 48%. It is good. Traffic. All right. All right. So in summary, the code represents the schema and the data of a blood bank database. It defines tables, insert data into them, establishes relationships between tables, and includes some views. This code can be used to recreate the blood bank database in a MySQL environment. All right, so before executing queries, let me check if our database is connected to the server or not. As you can see, it is connected and it is running. You can tap on this cylindrical icon here, reconnect to data DBMS, to establish a connection to MySQL server, and then double tap on the database like here. You can double tap on it, so that you want to use in the schema list in the left sidebar over here.